Hey everyone, welcome to SheaRants. Today I am joined by two members of the band Bleed the Fifth. So everyone, welcome to the channel, Morgan and Jordan. Welcome to the channel,
Hey,
guys.
How's it going?
Pretty good. How's it going with you guys?
Yeah, all good. Yeah, just finished work for the day, and thought we'd join the stream.
Yeah, I mean, I did finally get the name correct there, but just just talking about
Just we get it all the time. It's fine.
just talking about the actual name of your band. How did you guys come up with the name? Was it like just stuff where you came up with it on the spot, or was it something that took a bit of thinking for?
It was kind of a placeholder to begin with, just because is a play on words. Obviously, you plead the fifth, bleeding the fifth. Is also like in one of Iron Reagan's songs as well. So I'm a massive like Municipal Waste fan, same as like Iron Reagan. And yeah, is obviously like looking into it, it is one of my favorite albums as well by the band Divine Heresy. So yeah, it's just kind of like a homage to a few different things, to be honest.
Yeah, well, how did you guys actually start the band? Was it just like a bunch of friends coming together, like we want to start a band, or was it like did you meet because you made the band, or were you guys like friends beforehand?
So the guitarist is my brother, or like my actual brother. So Morgan's got a good story about this now. But basically, I'd been like out of a band for about 10. Well, it wasn't 10 years. It must have been about 7 years. And my old band, they were quite well known around like Wales. And he was doing a couple of shows up in England. He was doing really well, but we kind of broke up. But I kind of left in 2015. So my brother and this boy Tom, the drummer that we knew at the time, they were starting a project. He sent me some stuff over during lockdown. So I wanted it, like it was a no-brainer really. So I just kind of jumped on board. So Morgan has joined recently. He is our new bassist. So the old bassist left. Kind of on good terms. But yeah, Morgan kind of reached out to us, and he fit perfectly within the band. So we've been able
he's a sweetheart, isn't
he's not a bad bassist. But yeah, we've been kind of grinding it out now. This year, next year it'll be pretty much the same. But yeah, Morgan has joined now, where we've got a new EP coming out later on this year. So he'll be on that cycle of like runs with the tracks and on the next video as well. So it's been a little bit of a journey so far. I know it's only been like 2 years, but a lot happened in those 2 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if I can jump in there as well. Like, obviously, when I met the boys, like, I guess it was sort of like an audition. I went up, and honestly, like, it was like we'd known each other for so long, and we just got talking. But I think it's mainly we connected so well. Obviously, all being from South Wales, and all having like very similar musical interests. Especially like in different genres of metal, and we all kind of like pretty much 90% of the same stuff. We all had a lot to talk about, and we all get on like as a group. We get on great, and we get on great like individually as well, which is really good. And yeah, it's been pretty like I guess when I joined the band, it was like this is what I want to do, and the boys, they were on the same page, and well, since I've been in the band, it's been pretty flat out, doesn't it, George? Just especially the last this side of Christmas, it's been flat out, really.
Yeah, and it is because we got new music coming out We're kind of like under new management as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think especially joining at that kind of time and at the right time as well for it all to kick off. It all kind of like fitted really nicely.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, were you guys originally a metal band? Like, were you always a metal band, or was there like another idea to go off of?
Oh no, it's always been metal.
Yeah.
Like Morgan will know this. Lewis is our guitarist is pretty much metal. Like, yeah, I
Nothing
don't
else.
think I don't think he'd be interested in starting anything different, to be honest.
No. Again, like when I got shown the band by a mutual friend between the band and myself, I really loved the music that Bleed the Fifth were bringing out, and for me, it was just a no-brainer. It wasn't like joining a band that were doing well, although they are doing well, or we are doing well. I actually really like the music and the new EP that was written. It was written before I joined the band. I really, really, really like the new stuff that's coming out. So it's been so easy for me to. It feels like I've been in the band from the start, really, because it's just been so easy. Like I said, I didn't know any of the three other boys before, and yeah, we've all got that. As I said previously, we've all got that common interest of the same like metalcore genres. Bullet for Valentine, we all really like Trivium, we all really like Lamb of God. We got a funny story. One gig, we all showed up wearing a Lamb of God t-shirt. So from now on, we've got to have a bit of a communication about what t-shirt we're wearing. So yeah, but it all comes down to being so influenced by the same music, which is why I think it works so well.
Yeah, 100%.
And yeah, to answer the question, I can't see us changing from what we are really.
Yeah. Well, I mean, since you said that you guys are like mainly metalcore, which of course I've listened to a lot of you guys and stuff, which is why I reached out to you guys for this. A lot of metalcore fans don't like when a song has clean singing. What are you guys' actual thoughts on it?
To be honest, I think if you've got those like kind of like those harmonies in the guitars anyway, I think is a good kind of opportunity then to put clean singing into your song. And I mean it kind of diversifies the music as well. You're not just kind of pigeonholed into one kind of specific area of metalcore. So you find like bands, like I think a prime example was Periphery singer. So he hated screaming when he first joined, but then the more he got into it, that he realized that certain songs didn't need clean singing or certain songs didn't need like harsh singing. I think it really kind of broadens your expansion then if you're looking at target audiences and stuff like that. I think there's a little bit of everything for everyone then, personally.
Yeah, I feel like when I started listening to metal, I felt like most people do, screaming was heavy, clean wasn't. And as I've like matured, my taste of metal I guess I could say, like screaming isn't automatically heavy, and just like distorted guitar isn't automatically heavy, like blast beats isn't automatically heavy. So I feel like for myself anyway, bands like Bury Tomorrow, like some of their heavier songs, they have a lot of clean singing and they do it really, really well. And they're a great definition of what metalcore is. And also like Jordan said with harmonies, if you listen to a lot of death metal, of course 90% of the vocals are heavy vocals, but there's a lot of great death metal songs that have clean harmonies that sort of mimic the guitars. Pantera's another one where they use the cleans really, really well, almost to dual the guitars. So yeah, I feel like you can make a song more heavier with extreme vocals, I suppose. But yeah, I just feel like, you know, there's you've got to serve the song as well, and you know, it's not about just screaming for the sake of screaming or singing for the sake of singing. It's about, you know, again, serving the song, and sometimes you can use screaming in a much more melodic way than you can singing, and vice versa. So yeah, that's I guess that's my take on that.
Well, I mean, I just wanted to ask because I feel like mainly now you have a lot of like older metal fans who are kind of listening to like newer stuff. Like I guess Bad Omens is a good example where it's not really entirely metal, but and you have them saying this isn't even metal anymore.
Yeah, I think a lot of bands like are kind of following maybe that trend. I mean, like I think the one band that are kind of like, I think, you know, they're about 4 years, 5 years in front of everybody at the moment is Bring Me the Horizon.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, like when they done that kind of like the sempiternal sound, a lot of bands kind of try to emulate that, you know, and then like, you know, the album after it up until now. I mean, you know, you're seeing it getting like kind of, you're seeing more of the influence then on a lot of the bigger bands than you would say like, you know, heavier kind of stuff. I mean, you know, like with Bad Omens, for example, I mean, they were first class as like a Bring Me a Horizon ripoff. You know, a lot of people were kind of like, oh, you know, they just sound exactly like they used to be and everything else. And they, you know, they found their own kind of sound. But, you know, it still goes into that kind of territory where it isn't metal anymore. You know, is more like kind of pop, is more kind of like hyper pop, for instance. I think is a, you know, one of the best kind of genres to describe Bring Me the Horizon at the moment, especially with you know, with Ollie Sykes reaching out to other artists like Youngblood and stuff like that. I mean, Happy is a prime example of a hyper pop kind of song.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree with you there. I remember one year in, oh, what year was this? Maybe 2019. Maybe it was Parkway Drive headline Bloodstock, which historically was more of how do I word this? More of your Saxon, you know, your Judas Priest, your old school metal. I guess heavy metal would be the appropriate term. And Parkway Drive was sort of the first non like out and out metal band to headline the festival, and there was a lot of upset online, and they blew the non-existent roof off the festival. They absolutely smashed it, and their bassist was in a wheelchair for the set because he broke his ankle 2 days before, and the production was insane. And there was a lot of old school, you know, late 40s, 60-year-olds, and after the set they were just.
Yeah, he's breaking up.
Oh, have I gone? That was probably me.
There we are.
I think I'm back. Yeah, like music's always evolving and metal's always evolving. And if you look at what metal was 50 years ago with Black Sabbath, it's very different to what it is now, and that's a good thing. Otherwise, we just live in a very boring world.
Yeah, it just reminds me of that Simpsons meme when Abe is like going like, I used to be what it was and now I'm not anymore and it'll happen to you. Do you know what I mean? I think you are right. And I think as well, on top of that, everything gets recycled. So, you know, I especially with like, you know, kind of culture and fashion and music tastes and stuff like that, I think it's good to have that kind of twist on a certain genre, because I think it'll always come back around, and then you can release one song that is kind of like in that kind of moment and you'll blow up.
And I think like how do I word this? Like, it doesn't need to be for everyone either. I feel like Bring Me the Horizon are a good example. Like, I was a massive fan growing up of their old stuff. I loved their old stuff, and then I love Sempiternal, and then when they had that sort of sound change, it wasn't for me. But as I saw them in Download last year, I'm seeing them this year in Grass Pop in Belgium. Like, I do like it now, but it didn't need to be for me when they changed, and that's okay because music's subjective.
Yeah. Well, I mean, since you were just like talking about seeing them, that brings me to my next point, which I wanted to ask you guys about. What's your thoughts on like backing tracks when you're doing live music? Do you like hate it, or do you think it kind of takes away from properly performing the actual song?
Go on.
Go on. I mean, you can. There's some things that you can't emulate in a live setting, without having 20 people on stage.
Yeah.
But even then, like a band like Slipknot will still have backing tracks, and they've got literally 9 people on stage. So it depends. I feel like it depends on, without gatekeeping, and this is going to sound a bit gatekeepy. It depends on the genre. If you're more of like a Municipal Waste, more of a Biohazard, I think from my experience anyway, it would be less expected of a band to use that. Rage Against the Machine are like a really good example where Tom Alero would be soloing. There would be no guitar in the rhythm. It would just be bass. And I feel like sometimes, like even like Nirvana, like when they were a 3-piece, they would record with a guitar in the rhythm section, but live there wouldn't be. And it depends what you want as a band. And if you want it to sound like the record, then you're going to have to use backing tracks. If you want it to sound like a live setting, then just plug in and play, basically.
Yeah, I agree. I think it does. If you've got a big stage production, like you said, it kind of makes sense then because you're kind of mitigating costs. Whereas, like, if you're like a crust punk band, I don't think you can have like orchestras and like like multiple leads and stuff in the background. I mean, for us as a 4-piece, we do actually use backing tracks. So the rhythm guitar, is played by Lewis, yeah, and the lead is then put over the backing tracks. So I think in certain instances, like like ours, it does help, and it keeps like Tom's got an in-ear piece, so he's playing to a click. It keeps it nice and tight, and then like for us, like Morgan said, if it's what you want out of a band, which we want those like kind of sub drops, we want those kind of like orchestras in the background playing just to make it more of a full experience. Whereas, yeah, I think, yeah, I completely agree. I think if you are in like a kind of like a punk band and everything else, where you could get away with kind of not having those backing tracks and just going balls to the wall, then yeah, I completely agree. I don't think it's needed, but yeah, I mean, I think to the point where it affects the band if they haven't got the backing tracks, then I disagree with it. I mean, like Falling in Reverse cancelling shows because the laptops got lost.
Yeah.
I think for a bunch of musicians, that they're good musicians, they're getting paid well. I think then cancelling shows and stuff like that kind of defeats the object of being in a band.
I mean, it happened to us when we played in Newport.
Yeah.
Our laptop, there was multiple problems, and we had to just play as a 4-piece, and it was fine. It wasn't a problem. It wasn't a live show that we're used to playing, but we got on with it and we got through it. But I mean, to add to that as well, like cost is a massive thing. I remember seeing Dimmy Burger, and they had a live orchestra with them, and it was amazing. We can't afford that. If we could afford it, we'd have a live orchestra. Like we would, and it would be amazing. But while we're at the size we are, for now, the laptop's going to have to do. But we can play without it as well, which is a massive thing. I didn't really think about till you just said that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's mainly the issue is people have with them when it comes to like you're cancelling shows due to like not being able to have backing tracks, which you mentioned falling in reverse. I mean, to play devil's advocate, most of their songs have a lot of sounds which just aren't even made with actual instruments. It's just kind of like random sounds.
Yeah. Which, yeah, like you said, in a live setting, if you want those sounds to come through, you can't, like you said, you can't make them. Especially if it's synthesized, you just can't.
Yeah.
You can't emulate that live. Like you said, it's impossible. You can't. So you'd have to have a backing track. I don't know how I feel about cancelling shows because of one though. But especially when people and I mean, like, I don't want to get too political, but like with the cost of living crisis and everything going up in price, ticket sales including, especially big gigs in big cities. I mean, these you are hardworking people, all ourselves included, paying absolute ridiculous money to see shows, but we all do it because that's what metalheads do. But it's all about the live show. Just for a band to cancel, I mean, yes, that sucks. I'd rather, yeah, that just sucks.
Yeah, well, since we have mentioned a few other bands in the video, I actually wanted to ask what bands influence you guys like in your music and your like writing of songs and that?
Oh, there's quite a few. I think we've all got our individual, we've all got our individual kind of influences. Like, I think for me, growing up, I listened to like kind of like a plethora of different genres. I mean, like my favorite band of all time isn't even a metal band. Is a like a pop punk band. Is Alkaline Trio. But like, as in like the metal that we play. Like I like to pin it down. Killswitch Engage, Trivium, Bullet for My Valentine, Devil Driver, Machine Head, Lamb of God,
Parkway
Drive. Yeah, I mean, like me growing up and learning how to scream. I think it was Bring Me the Horizon, Parkway Drive, August Burns Red, like Suicide Silence. Like is kind of those old school kind of like metal bands. And I when I say old school, I mean like as in it's not that kind of new wave of metalcore. Like Ocean's 8, Alaska. I think like Morgan touched on them earlier, although I wouldn't really say that they're kind of like newish. But like Buried Tomorrow, is kind of that different sound of metalcore. But yeah, I'd say as a band, those kind of like artists, like I think Trivium is a massive one, especially for Tom.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Joel, because now I think about it, I feel like all the the British bands, they've all gone through this sound change. Bring Me the Horizon being a big one. Buried Tomorrow have had a bit of a sound change in the last two albums. Architects have had a massive sound change. They're all British bands, whereas kind of like the Americans and the Australians, they're not. No, I wouldn't say copying. They're not following that trend as much.
Yeah.
But that's kind of just an observation I've just made.
I completely agree. I think the only kind of band that comes to mind that haven't really changed their sound, like they've evolved as they've gone along, is like A Hollow or Home. But like I think, yeah, even like Ocean's 8 Alaska, Architects, yeah, they've gone for that kind of like that sound that Bring brought out a good while ago. And again, you know, is nobody's kind of like fault. It's just they're 4 years, 5 years so far ahead.
Yeah.
But yeah, I you know, like I Killed the Prom Queen. They released another album. I think it was like maybe 4 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that. And it was you could tell it was like I Killed the Prom Queen.
Mm.
Do you mean? So yeah, I think like with the American kind of style of music, which I think we fit quite well. I wouldn't say that we sound like a British metalcore band.
No, I agree. I going to influence for me. The first band I sort of copied and learned how to scream from was actually an Australian band called Trophy Eyes, which they're more pop punk really, especially their newer stuff. But their first few releases, I just loved the harsh vocals. Absolutely loved it. I loved everything about it. But yeah, a lot of Australian influences for me. Parkway Drive, and yeah, obviously Welsh metal, especially locally, you know, smaller scenes. Jordan will remember Hobos in Bridgend. They used to do an event called Free Marsh, which was a free gig, and for a 15-year-old, that was awesome. So, especially when you're in skin tight jeans and straightened my curly hair and all that. So yeah, that was good times. And I just remember. I guess Aston Alexandria were quite a bit of an influence for me. Maybe when I was growing up, I remember they were like the first band I saw live. They played alongside Bullet as well. Bullet were a massive influence in the early days. Metallica, massive influence. But as time's gone on, more like technical metal. So like Gojira, Meshuggah, Opeth, Behemoth. Just more of a complicated sound. I've kind of preferred, and I think, as Jordan said, I know Tom and Lewis are massive Trivium fans, and they're definitely not writing simple riffs. So yeah, I think we all have that appreciation for the catchy complexity of music. But yeah, outside of metal, I listen to a lot of pop punk. Like my favorite band ever, Neck Deep. So I absolutely am like got a massive crush on the whole band. But I listen to a bit of jazz as well, just to have a break from metal when I need one, which isn't often, but I think sometimes I like the madness of it. But yeah, aside from that, just German rave music as well. I don't think that influences the band though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, talking about your guys' music now, is there like, well, just so that I can actually ask the question, talking about Black Sun, is there like a story behind it, like the lyrics of the song, or just kind of like how you guys were feeling at the time?
So I think musically wise, so Lewis and Tom, like they do write a lot of the music, because Tom also plays guitar, which is, you know, is massively helpful with Lewis. But I think Lewis said he was going through a writer's block, and he was just kind of chugging along, and he bent the string, and he was like, "Oh, that, you know, sounds really cool." And yeah, I think he was going through those phases of just like chugging and bending it, and then he thought, well, I'll try and triple it. And then I think the idea for the back of that then was him messaging Tom and then going back and forth. As lyrically as it goes, yeah, it has got a theme. Everything that I write has a theme for it. Usually comes if I got like an idea in my head. So like when I kind of go into that kind of like writing mode and everything else, I kind of usually have like kind of images in my head of something or an idea, and then I write on the back of that. So like with this time, it was kind of like like an eclipse. And then, you know, the idea behind the song is, you know, somebody having that victim mentality, and then kind of not either not like getting help or not helping themselves, because usually you tend to find when somebody's in that cycle of like victim mentality, they'll either kind of like manipulate people, they'll kind of like make people like they'll alienate like a lot of people as well in their kind of like close group. And on top of that, you know, is usually is like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So, you know, in that person's mind is kind of everybody hates me. You know, like this person's wrong, that person's wrong. I'm the only person with like a kind of thought or feeling or the right kind of idea. Everybody else around me is just like kind of like wrong and stupid and everything else. And then, you know, lo and behold, they sat there all alone. They've got no friends, got no family. And then, you know, it's kind of like them sitting there saying, well, I was right all along. But again, is that cycle of going through that kind of self-abuse side of it, where, you know, they do want to be alone, but they want to be more right within themselves than they do want to accept the fact that they are actually manipulating people, hurting people, and, you know, getting that cycle of suffering kind of out of the way.
Remember I said about complexity?
Cover what?
Complexity.
Oh, yeah.
It's like for me, like the first time the boys showed me the song, I just fell in love with it, to be honest. And you could tell, even though I'm not really a lyrics guy, you could tell the thought process and the manpower, the effort that went into the whole production, including the lyrics. Obviously doing backing vocals for the band, obviously reading the lyrics as well. And speaking to Jordan about the work that's gone into that song definitely shows with how it's been portrayed in I'm trying to get what I'm trying to say, portrayed in the music form. Definitely by the complexity and it's had a lot of great reviews from some good people, and the drumming pattern that Tom come up with that works with the guitar strumming pattern. Like Jordan said, Tom and Lewis will send each other guitar riffs back and forth. But I think I think Jordan would agree with me. He's more of a guitarist than a drummer. So I think he plays drums like a guitarist, if that makes sense. A bit like Dave Grohl would, or maybe the other way around. But the drumming pattern in that song really mimics the guitar really well, I feel.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, talking about the new EP which you guys have coming out, it's called Mortal Heart, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one. Yeah.
Yeah. How did you guys sort of come up with the name for the whole EP? Was it like just because like you have one of the songs named Mortal Heart, and is that like one of your favorite songs from the EP itself, or is it something else?
Yeah, I suppose we was kind of looking at the song names and kind of seeing what fit better. I think, you know, we was coming up with ideas maybe for like the EP cover. So, you know, we wanted to incorporate the ram skull in the new EP as well. So, you know, I kind of had to sit down and had to think and everything else. And, like the name. So the Mortal Heart is a track on the EP. So that'll be the next music video. The next lyric video will be a different song, but I think, like, again, with the idea behind Mortal Heart. So like, if I'm sure it is Greek. Yeah, it is Greek. So if you look into like Greek mythology and stuff like that, so Hades and Personifies. Was it Personifies? Yeah, so they were in a, sure it is Personifies. Anyway, but yeah, they were in a relationship. So like the river Styx that runs through the underworld. Basically, like, you've got your heroes that have like weaknesses and stuff like that, like Achilles with his heel, is getting dipped into the water and realizing that you have immortal soul, you have immortal heart. Nobody's eternally immortal. So on the back of that, then I thought, like, well, maybe going forward with the cover, we've already had the idea of the ram skull on the World Eater EP. So I thought, going into like Indian mythology, then on the back of that with the scry and mirror, is kind of like handing your heart out for a mask in return, which I think a lot of people do anyway. So is kind of the idea of like hiding behind this immortality, but you have I have a mortal heart. You have like a mortal place to wound yourself, and is that kind of saying by Tolkien that always reminds me of that, is like, you can, and this is just kind of not really transcribing what he said, but yeah, you can wrap it up as much as you want, but in the end, if you do, you're always going to be eternally alone. So yeah, the idea of those kind of like ideologies and religious like kind of ideas as well helped shape the actual name and the EP cover.
Yeah, I mean, after listening to some of you guys' songs, I am pretty excited to hear all the songs on it. With well, how long does it take you guys to usually like fully properly make a song, like write, record, and all of that?
Oh god, a while. Like, yeah. So Lewis and Tom have been writing music since lockdown. I think we've got ideas and riffs and kind of like, not fully fleshed out kind of songs. I think we've got like maybe 26 songs written roughly, and about maybe 11 kind of riffs in the back burner. I think this EP kind of took the longest. I don't think we was expecting it to take this long, just because we wanted certain things to be right. I know Black Sun took quite a while, vocally anyway, to get where we wanted it, just because originally there was singing in the track. And we kept going back to the idea and back to the idea, and then eventually it just came out the way that we wanted it. And I think that's what happened with this EP now. We have like the songs roughly, well, they're being mastered as we speak. We've released one track off it. The artwork's done. We've got the idea of where our next like video wants to be, like who's doing the lyric video. it is kind of sometimes the music kind of it pushes your plan back, in a sense, just because, you know, as artists as well, I know, like, for myself, even like drawing and writing poetry and kind of like even with skating, like there's that kind of perfectionist issue that I have where I'm not always happy with what I've done, I suppose. And I think that goes maybe for the boys as well. I'm always kind of like thinking of like new ways to improve the track, which then does it. Yeah, it brings it back like quite a bit, to be honest.
Yeah, I was gonna agree with the perfectionist thing. I think as musicians, yeah, we're definitely perfectionist, which is a pro and a con. It's a con because it typically takes longer, but the pro is everyone's happy, and we write better music. I think as well, like follow on from what Jordan said, like a lot has happened with the band since the release of the first EP. Me joining the band included in that, new management, as we touched on earlier, recording videos. The studio that we record at is sadly going to be no more in the future, so we've had to come to terms with that. Mastering music takes forever, as it should, because again we're all perfectionists. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, and there's a lot of time, and as well, we all work. We've all bought houses. We all have other interests. Like Jordan skates, I play golf. Lewis plays guitar, but so we and as well, we're trying to cram in as many gigs as we can. Trying to play new areas, trying to work on merch. Yeah, so it's a long process, but a worthwhile process, I would argue.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for finding the time to do this interview with me.
Yeah,
no, it's been great.
Yeah, thank you for reaching out, man. Like, I know we were speaking previously. Like, there's I've noticed a little bit more now. Like, I'm a massive like horror buff as well. So like, you've got Shaun of the Dead as well, the DVD like in the background, which is one of my favorite kind of horror films. If in classes, I mean, it's a horror comedy, but it's still one of the best I've seen in a while.
I can see the Scream mask as well, which is like a horror comedy as well. I love the new Scream films, how they're almost like a mockery of themselves, like intentionally. Yeah. I think is really cool. But yeah, I love horror films as well. So yes, it's been great. It's been great. Yeah, and I guess metal is the horror genre of music. So that's the way I always describe it to non-metal heads.
Well, look at Ice Nine Kills.
Exactly.
Like they're blending that kind of horror within the metal as well, which is really cool actually to see. Like it's not my kind of metal, but like I can see why a lot of people like them.
But I mean, like talking about that, like Cannibal Corpse are the OGs, like they're the slashers of metal. Yeah. And I'm a massive Cannibal Corpse fan, so it works out great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as I said, thank you guys for doing this interview with me. I'm probably going to end off now. So thank you all for watching this video, and check out Bleedy Fifth's latest single, Black Sun. It's going to be linked in the description of this video and also the pinned comment of it. Until next time, bye-bye.
Ta.
Peace.